Brabiel, Deputy Secretary at the Department of Ag here, filling in for Secretary Redding, who is over at the All-American Dairy Show that's going in, it's in full speed over at Farm Show right now. So I wanted to announce that this meeting has been properly advertised in compliance with the Sunshine Act. It will be recorded. Just as a housekeeping issue for people in the room here, since we are in room 202, we do have to use the microphones. Please press the green button when you want to speak so everyone online can hear us. So I will turn it over now to Tom, who's going to take a roll. Thank you, Tom.
Thanks, Lisa. Commissioner Brenheiser. Commissioner DeBonda. No. Commissioner Ellis.
Here.
Commissioner Hoffman.
Here.
Commissioner Jones.
Here.
Commissioner Lark. Commissioner Rogers.
Here.
Commissioner Ruddy. Commissioner Sweeney is not here. I don't think she's online. Back to Commissioner DeBonda. And Commissioner Lark. You have a quorum, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. Let's move on to the agenda here. First on the list is a presentation of the fiscal year 26-27 proposed budget presentation discussion. I'll turn it back over to Tom.
Thank you. A couple general comments. The goal today is just to provide information on the proposed 26-27 budget request, and I say request. There is not going to be any commission action. It's strictly informational, answer questions and so on. There'll be no vote. There'll be no administrative action. The process here will be pretty straightforward. I'm going to go through the commission, list the changes, take questions. We'll move to testing. Mary will do the UPenn petrol budget. I'll finish up with the testing. Sidebar real quick. I'm sure people are aware of certain issues at petrol. On this budget for 26-27, it is on a full year basis. We're making an assumption that petrol will be back doing the forensic thoroughbred testing. Last point is that when we're done today, we will take the information we get, and Nikki, Tony, and I will go back, make whatever modifications. This will come back on the docket on 9:30, which is the regularly scheduled commission meeting, for further questions and a vote by the commission. If I have no other questions, I will start. Let's start with the Horse Racing Commission 26-27 budget request. We'll start with personnel costs. Personnel costs are up $315,000 over 25-26. There are two reasons for that. The first reason is the Commonwealth 2 years ago or 3 years ago negotiated with the union and management a 5-year term budget increase. That budget increase is almost 2.5. The second issue is there's some increases due to filling positions. We've basically run under complement significantly for the last 4 or 5 years. We're trying to fill some positions. And the last thing to remember with the budget or with the amount increase is it's not simply wage and compensation. It also applies to benefits. And as everyone knows, the cost of health, welfare, and so on has increased. So on the commission side, that's $315,000. That's basically the major increase on this side. If I take a quick look, travel is $100,000. It's flat. Telecommunications is flat. And these are based on, when we look at this, based on either 24-25 actuals or 25-26 projections. The goal that Tony and I and Nikki had from accounting was the best to keep it as level as previous years, and where we can is mitigate and reduce. And I think we've done a decent job. Moving on to IT. The budget request is 575,000, which is exactly the same as last year. Legal is flat with last year, 20,000. It's an area that possibly we're going to take another look at. We might be able to shave a little off based on what occurred in 22 or 23, 24 and 24, 25. Specialized services is flat. It was 115 we budgeted last year. We kept it the same. Just for people's edification, the costs that fall into that category are fingerprinting, Capitol Police security in the building, and certain property costs that apply to this building. So we've maintained a level funding from previous years. Other specialized services, we cut by $10,000 based on 23, 24 and 24, 25. That basically is background checks. As everyone knows, when someone's being licensed, background checks are done, and that's the area for that. Moving on, professional services not specified. That's 70,000. We increased it slightly by 20,000. The reason for is what we saw in 24, 25. That's photo finish at the fairs is the biggest piece of that. Moving on, no change in medical, mental and dental, no change in contracted maintenance. We took the advertising out. We really haven't spent the last couple of years anything in advertising, so we removed the 2,000. Under vehicles, we bumped it up by 25,000. Main reason is based on 24, 25. And you say, what's the vehicles? We use vehicles to move people from track to track. When we have a shortage of personnel, we try our best to either move veterinarians from one track to another to fill in the blanks. Livestock workers are moved. Special investigators are moved. So we use what we have to cover if we can't fill the positions. Moving past that, going down, it's pretty much no change compared to 25, 26. If you take a look, postage and freight, we kept flat. Printing's flat. Membership dues are flat. Conference expenses are 10,000. Just as an FYI, that's a discretionary expense based on the revenue stream and how we're spending money. We can tighten that up if we have to. The other areas, if I get down to other operational expenses, treasury, we bumped it by 10,000 based on the actual in 24, 25. That's a number that comes from downtown. It's an estimate that Nikki and I put together taking a look at this. I actually can't tell you for sure what the number is going to be that funds from treasury. So that brings us to the subtotal for the operational items. In 25, 26, it was $1,255,000. It's $1,301,000, 3.6 increase. The interfund reimbursements, we reduced by 61,000. That's an estimate. And the items that are in the interfund reimbursements are Commonwealth services provided. They're HR, IT, some maintenance bills. It's an estimate. And downtown has a formula on how they come to that with full-time, part-time people and so on. And in the years past, I've generally provided that. I will at a later time, but it's an estimate. When you take a look at total spending for the commission, this year it's $8,455,000 versus $8,155,000. It's an increase of 3.5%, and 300,000 increase is basically reflected in the personnel costs. Any questions on the Horse Racing Commission budget requests? Okay, not hearing any, Madam Chair, I'll move on to testing. I found over the years, and Mary concurs, the easiest way is, instead of going through and stopping, We're going to start with Mary. Mary's going to report on the UPenn contract. It's listed in this year's budget at $7.6 million. When Mary's done, then I'll pick up the other items.
Thank you, Tom. Good morning, everyone. The largest portion of our budget is obviously personnel. We anticipate that we'll have about a 1% increase for fiscal year 27. That's due to some adjustments that we've made in personnel. I ended up discontinuing a drug testing and research position, adjusting some of our research positions. And then one of our people who was in drug testing alone is now doing a little bit of research as well to make up the difference for the research. The personnel expense projections for fiscal year 26-27 include a 4% increase in salaries for fiscal year 25-26. And then we also had a benefit rate go up for fiscal year 25-26 from 32.6 to 34.5%. So that's all reflected in the personnel numbers that you see there. In operational, we used our actuals for fiscal year 24-25 and then the actuals to date for 25-26 to project what we expect for fiscal year 27. Obviously, there's a little bit of uncertainty there with expenses, especially for supplies. So we have a 5% proposed increase for fiscal year 26-27 based on our historical data. We are going to be combining one of the AB Psych service contracts into 2 contracts into 1 contract in fiscal year 25-26, which should save us a little bit. And we'll put the combined contract on this UPenn contract. Currently, one of them is on the PDA budget separately, and one of them is on the UPenn budget separately. And so by combining them, we'll get a little bit of cost savings from the company. The equipment monies that are budgeted there are in case we need to replace any of our large mass spectrometer purchases. We are expecting the Thermovelos to become obsolete in 26-27. We will be able to keep it going as long as there's parts available and the manufacturer will continue to service it. However, that's what the equipment line primarily is for, is as needed, we would request to replace that instrument if needed. The laboratory expenses that are not included in this contract, there's a PDA employee, there is the petrol rent, and then of course the TCO2 testing that's done at the standard print tracks. That's all coming out of the testing budget line items. So in summary, for the fiscal year 26-27 proposed budget, we have a 1.3% increase projected for fiscal year 26-27. And you can see the various breakdowns below regarding which percentages are for research versus forensic testing costs, sample testing costs. Are there any questions?
Just a little disappointed that we are not looking at prior figures to compare. Put your camera.
Well, I'm a little disappointed that we don't have prior figures that we can compare the increases to.
You want to go back before 26, Daryl?
Yeah, like we did with the operational. You know, we're looking at prior year figures,
Okay,
so we have nothing to compare it with.
so if we distribute with you fiscal year 25 and 24, that would address your
Are
concerns.
you saying that we're looking at a 2.5% increase over 25? Is that what you're, you mentioned that it's an increase of 2.5%.
Actually, it's a 1.3% over fiscal year 25-26. And the budget for fiscal year 25 was actually the exact same bottom line. It was 7.519. We had flat level funding between fiscal year 24-25 and fiscal year 25-26. So it's come down.
Plus the other thing with thoroughbreds, I thought that amount, the amount that we're paying for testing there would be paid through HISA or.
All right, let's start here. For the for the fiscal year 25-26, the year that we're in right now, okay, the monies that were allocated to petrol are being reallocated to pay industrials costs from July 8th through June 30th, or whenever they cease. Okay, this budget for 27 that Mary's put on the table starts July 1st of 26 and runs through June 30th of 27. What I'm saying is, at this time right now, we are projecting and we're cautiously optimistic that come July 1st of 26, the thoroughbred forensic testing will revert back to petrol. Mary projected for 27 that occurrence. In the event, Daryl, that doesn't transpire, there will be a modified budget for petrol, taking out the thoroughbred forensic testing and allowing that allocation go to industrial. Okay. I mean, I guess the philosophy between Tony, Mary, and I is this: we started at someplace. We have to start at someplace. We're optimistic or cautiously optimistic that petrol will be doing the forensic thoroughbred testing. If not, this will be decreased by the amount of money that is going to industrial.
At this point, we don't know what we're going to be paying for testing for 26. Is that correct? Or
For fiscal year 25-26, the year we're in right now,
we're talking about 27. Do we know for sure what we're going to be paying?
no, that starts July 1st of 26. There's, Daryl, Commissioner, like I said, if it reverts back to the way it has been previously, prior to what transpired in July, where petrol does standardbred forensic testing, the thoroughbred forensic testing, and the 2 research programs for thoroughbred and standardbred, this is the number Mary projects. In the event that for some reason they are not doing some part of the testing, whether it's thoroughbred, standardbred, some part of the research, these numbers will be adjusted accordingly. There'll be no double paying of anything. That help?
And by the way, Tom, this is Sal DeBunda. I was a little late getting on because I had to find something in the email, but I did hear that and I understand what you said. Did you hear
Any
me?
other questions?
Did you
for
hear
Mary?
Did you,
What?
did you,
I have,
did you hear me?
it's Russell. Tom, I have a question. What happens if, surprise, surprise, we get reinstated as a lab, say next month or in December or something? Does that affect any of these numbers?
No, this doesn't. Remember, Russell, the numbers that we're working on today starts July 1st of 2026 and runs through June 30th of 2027. So if there's
Okay,
a
good.
change this year, we would stop. The money that's allocated to industrial would cease. Those monies would be reallocated to petrol.
Got it. Thank you.
Tom, Tom, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I didn't get a response the first time. I'm sorry. Okay, I understand exactly what you said.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other questions for Dr. Robinson on petrol's piece? If not, I'll proceed to the rest of the testing. So on to the testing budget. I'll start with personnel. The personnel costs are $5.8 million. It's up $550,000. Part of it, as I said, is basically the Commonwealth had negotiated a rate increase, that plus filling positions. But in reviewing 23, 24, 24, 25, and 25, 26, It's clearly evident that the 24-25 actual was $5.2 million. Somehow the budget for last year is $5.2 million. I don't believe that's accurate at all. I believe it's closer to 5.4 or 5.5. That's how we came up with the 5.8 million. Basically, we increased it about a little less than about 5%. So I understand it's 550,000. If you look at it directly off the 25-26 budget, it looks like almost a 10% increase. But I have a feeling that the 5,250,000 for the 25-26 budget is not really accurate. Moving on to travel and training, based on the actual for 24-25 and the projection for 25-26, seeing where that is, we bumped it up 15,000. That's an area that, as we talked about before, we move veterinarians, we move dahis, we move livestock workers and people from track to track. There's cost involved in that. Telecommunications, we maintained a flat 35,000 compared to a year ago. Legal services fee, we brought down to 0. In fairness, I made a mistake. It probably shouldn't be 0. It should be $4,000 or $5,000. We'll make that adjustment. There's not 15,000, but there's probably 3,000 or 4,000. So we'll adjust that when we get with Nikki. Mary went through the UPenn contract, Dr. Robinson, and explained that. Under medical, mental, and dental services and contractor services, I'm going to take those two together. The costs that are in both of these, and we have to sit with accounting and sort this out, but basically we cut it $50,000. There might be a little more to be cut out of that. The areas and items in there are necropsies, the dahi's salary is in there, contracted vets, and we ask what a contracted vet is. If we can't get a VMFO on the complement that won't take a job, which we've had problems, for example, at the Meadows VMFOs, there's 2 VMFOs that have been open since COVID. I want to say 4 years. We have been unable, and I think we've run 10 postings to fill those positions, and we've been unsuccessful. So 2 things happen. We still need veterinarians to run the races at the Meadows. So either 1 or 2 things. We get temporary contracted help that comes in and will work. They're not under the complement, they're under a contract, or we move people around. So those 2 items, the medical, mental, and dental services and contracted services, they fall into one of those. We're probably going to have to do further review and sort it out so it's clear. But between those 2 items, I think we have the area covered. Next item is real estate. Real estate is only one item. It is the lease agreement with Westchester University. That's where the Petrol Lab is housed. It's a 5-year agreement that expires, I believe it's April of 2027. There's I believe it is a 2.7% yearly increase. So you'll see it's going from about 375, roughly rounded it at 400,000. Under vehicles, it's a $5,000 increase. It's 45,000 from 40. Once again, some of the staff uses vehicles to go track to track to cover the positions. Under office equipment and supplies and other equipment supplies, that's 13,000 for office equipment and supplies, up 3,000. And under other equipment leases and supplies, it's 30, up 5,000. That's simply increased cost, inflation, and what it costs to do business. Bless you. Miscellaneous is 1,000. Laboratory supplies is flat. It's based equal to the budget last year. If you go back to 24-25, it was 190,000. We left it at 250,000 based on those actuals and in the concern with the price of inflation and the cost of goods. Postage and freight, we cut slightly to keep it at 120. Printing is 5,000. We took it to 0 from 5,000. That's probably an area it should be 1 or 2,000. Membership dues, 50,000. That's 5,000 up from a year ago. Conference expenses are 4,000. Wearing apparel is 10. Both of those are discretionary items based on spending, based on the budget, based on funding. They may be dropped. And insurance, surety, and fidelity bonds is equal to last year. The subtotal for operating is 152,000 versus 9,093,000, a $59,000 increase. That's up 0.5 point over a year ago. Under the interfund, it's basically flat, 692,000 with 700,000 budgeted last. Once again, Commonwealth Services, HR, IT, and basically there's a formula. This is an estimate. This number will get from downtown. If you take a look at the total cost on the testing program, it's the 15,644,000 versus 15,053,000. It's about a 3.9 increase, of which 550,000 is the lion's share, and that's on personnel, which I explained. One final note, this is spending authority. This is our request to the governor's office and the legislature for spending authority. The MO that Tony and I and Nikki have operated under in the past is we try to come in significantly under that. Any questions?
Tom, I'm not sure this is a question at this point, but I assume you saw the letter that was written by the members of the THA yesterday. Did you see that?
No, I did not, Sal.
They wrote to the HISA asking them to change their budget because it was getting too high. Now, of course, most of that affects the horsemen, but I think we should look at that and see whether or not, and I don't have a recommendation. I'm asking the question. Should we ignore it? Should we support it? Or take a position against it? So I think we should definitely at some point soon, maybe the next meeting, look at that letter that was written yesterday and see whether or not we should take one of those three positions.
My recommendation, Commissioner, is I'll get a copy of the letter. I'll distribute it to the commissioners. I'll put it on the agenda for discussion on the September meeting.
Okay, that's what I thought you were going to say, but I just wanted you to be aware of it.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other questions?
Commissioner Lark joining the meeting.
Thank you, Commissioner.
I looked at the HISA and HIWU budget for next year and compared it with this current year. And I think we do need to talk about it at some point. And like you said, at the next meeting would be appropriate.
Thank you, Commissioner Rogers. All right, that concludes the presentations. Are there any questions about the commission budget request presentation, the testing budget request presentation, or the petrol presentation? And one point I'll make is I will get you, Commissioner Brennheiser, the 2 previous years from petrol, so you'll have that and I'll distribute it to the commission. No questions, Madam Chair.
Okay, last call for any questions?
Tom, can we get the budget request sheets? I know in prior years, I think we got them. I don't know if I missed them or we didn't get them. Shows the breakdown.
Yeah, in previous years, Brian, that we held them till the commission had an opportunity to review them. understand that we distribute them here. I'll be happy to distribute them to you. But at this point in time, it's strictly a working document. It has not been approved by this commission, but I will get it out to the group.
Thank you.
Last call. Any other questions from the commissioners? Okay, just a reminder, our next scheduled public meeting is Tuesday, September 30th at 1 o'clock, and that will be down in our lobby conference room as usual. I think seeing or hearing no other questions or comments, I will call for an adjournment. Anyone? Motion for adjournment?
So moved.
So move second? Second. And second. All those in favor to adjourn, say aye.
Aye.
Okay,
Aye.
All right.
okay.